The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, celebrating KPTS's nearly 50 years of community support in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Election day is coming up and Kansas will be selecting a new governor. This time it's a competitive three-way race and each of the candidates is taking every opportunity to share his or her positions. But aside from the politics, what kind of people are these who are vying to lead our state? Well, we are going to try to find out and learn more about the person behind the persona. We have invited each of the candidates to come and share their life stories. This week, we welcome Republican nominee Kris Kobach. His name is familiar not only in Kansas, but across the country. Kris Kobach has served as Kansas Secretary of State since 2011. He's known as a staunch advocate of enforcing immigration laws and passing new ones. Kobach is the principal author of laws requiring voters to provide proof of citizenship. He's drafted such legislation for Kansas and other states as well. He has also served as legal counsel to states and cities across the nation, defending laws that discourage illegal immigration. Kobach consults President Trump on immigration issues and is a frequent guest on Fox News Channel. An Ivy League and Oxford scholar, Kobach graduated summa cum laude from Harvard and served as editor of the Yale Law Journal en route to his Doctor of Jurisprudence degree. His resume is impressive, but who is the man behind all these accolades and accomplishments? Is there more to him than just law and politics and immigration? We'll try to find out as we go one-on-one with Kris Kobach right now. I'm Victor Hogstrom. Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to welcome gubernatorial candidate and Kansas Secretary of State, Kris Kobach, to the table. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Pleasure to have you. I know it's busy. You're running a campaign, but we like to get the public to know you better.
I appreciate the invitation.
So let's begin from the beginning. Your growing up days, your childhood days. You were born in Wisconsin, moved to Kansas, Topeka. Take it from there.
Yeah, my folks moved to Topeka when I was 7 years old. Went to Washburn Rural High School. Just absolutely loved Kansas. Was involved in scouting, became an Eagle Scout, and was very involved in debate. Came to Wichita all the time to debate against some of the Wichita debaters in high school. Then went off to college, went out east for college, but I always knew that I wanted to come back to Kansas. I love this state, which is interesting because there's a brain drain. A lot of people who do go to fancy colleges or whatever colleges out of state, they leave and they stay away. But I just really believe we've got so much to offer here in Kansas.
Now you said you were involved with debates coming back to Wichita and going other places. Did that prepare you for politics?
Yeah.
Or just how did you get involved in politics?
You know, I think actually that's what gave me my first sense that maybe someday I might want to run for some office, because high school debate today, as it was, 35 years ago, is still about policy questions. What are the big questions we face as Americans, as Kansans? What are your answers? Are your answers better than the other person's answers? And it got me thinking that maybe someday I'd like to do this. I'm not one of those people who decided at age 14 that I want to be president or something grand like that, but I just kind of had a sense that maybe I might want to get involved someday.
So how did you prepare yourself to become a politician?
I didn't really prepare myself to become a politician. I was was of course a debater in high school and in college as well. Went on to law school after graduate school. So that, those are good training, but frankly, there's no such thing as training to be a politician. I mean, I think the best politician is somebody who actually believes passionately in a principle, in a cause, and has an idea of how to achieve those goals. I think sometimes there are some politicians who just want a fancy title. They just want to be governor so they can be governor. That's not who I am. There's certain things that I really believe I want to accomplish and that would be good for the people of Kansas. And so, it's to accomplish those things. And if I didn't think I could accomplish them, I wouldn't be running. I'd be doing something else.
So who are you?
So what are those things? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
Okay. So a whole number of things. So my dad came to Kansas to start to purchase and then to build a car dealership. And so I saw the experience
in
Topeka. I saw the experience of being a small business owner. And I saw the taxes and the regulation he had to face, and I saw all of the challenges of building a business, but he was able to, and he succeeded. And one of the things I believe is that Kansas should remain a place where anybody can say, you know what, I'm going to change my course, and I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to build this, or I'm going to sell that. And we need to be a business-friendly state. And there's so many people, not just Republicans, but Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, people who just say, you know what, I've got an idea, and I think I can make a living doing this. And Kansas has increasingly become a state that it's tough to do business in for a number of reasons. We're the highest tax state in the 5-state area, considering the 4 states that surround us. Mm-hmm. And also we have the highest electricity costs in Kansas. And so when you think about starting a business, 2 of the biggest things you have to figure in your cost of doing business are the taxes and the cost of electricity. And so, I want to do things to encourage people to stay in Kansas and build their businesses in Kansas. One thing you see in parts of our state that are close to the state line, especially the Missouri state line and the Oklahoma state line, is that a lot of people, when they're choosing, am I going to start my company on the Kansas side, or am I going to go over to the Missouri side or the Oklahoma side? They'll look at it and they say, wow, their taxes are a lot lower in Missouri and Oklahoma. Why don't I just start my business over there? Mm-hmm. I want people to make the decision to be in Kansas. I love this state. We have so much going for us, and I just want it to be a place where people say, yeah, I want to stay, and I can afford to stay.
So what is your plan as a candidate for governor to attract people to the state and to cause them to stay?
Well, first of all, we have to address the brain drain of people, smart people who go to Kansas high schools and then they decide they're going to leave and they're going to stay away. And so I think you have to give people incentives to stay in Kansas. That could be a program to get them. Maybe it's not someone going to a 4-year college, they're going to a technical school and they want to maybe enter the construction trade. Give them an incentive to go to a Kansas community college and then to connect with a Kansas builder here in our state and stay here doing that. Don't venture abroad and think that the grass is greener, because it's not. The grass is really green here in Kansas. And then I think also we have to cut taxes. We have the 8th highest sales taxes in America here in Kansas, and we also have punishingly high taxes on food. We're one of only 7 states that taxes food at the same rate we tax everything else, and that's really regressive. Everybody's got to eat, whether you're rich or you're poor. And I'd like to see our sales taxes on food come down. I'd like to see all of our sales taxes come down because that makes Kansas businesses thrive. When someone's living near a state line and they have to decide, am I going to shop for groceries on the Kansas side or the Missouri side, they pick the Missouri side. Same with buying gas. So that's one thing. Also, I think our property taxes are way too high in Kansas. All across the state, I've heard from people who have had punishing appraisal increases. It's not just the mill levy, but it's our annual appraisals that are often in double digits. Someone's home is appraised at a 15% increase, or their farmland goes up 12% in 1 year, or their business goes up 30% in 1 year. And these numbers are not exaggerations at all. People suddenly say, wow, that was like a tax hike and no one's taking responsibility for that. There's no one I can vote out of office for that. So I want to put a 2% cap on appraisals, on taxes.
You also plan to reduce spending, not reduce spending, but to cut certain areas in the schools, K through 12.
Not in,
75%.
No, so in K through 12, my plan there is not to cut spending, but to talk about where we're spending the money. So right now we're spending billions of dollars every year on our K through 12 education system, but only about 53 cents on the dollar is getting into the classroom. There's a lot of money going to fancy new buildings, to what I think are redundant administrators. There's one high school in Wichita that has 12 assistant principals. Now, when I went to high school, we only had one assistant principal, and I don't know what that guy did all day. I'm not sure if a high school needs 12 assistant principals. I'd rather see the money get into the classroom. That means the teacher's salary. That means the books. That means computers for the students. That means teaching equipment. That's where the money should be going. And what I see happening is there's money going into the system, but it's not getting into the classroom. So I would put 75 cents of every dollar in the classroom.
Isn't that the prerogative of the school district?
It is, but Kansas statute can be configured to require the districts to spend more money in the classroom.
Changing the laws, you say?
Changing the law so that the money gets directed to the classroom.
Now, you know, Governor Brownback cut taxes, and you're saying the same thing, and that did not help the state.
So Governor
What's the
Brownback,
difference
yeah,
in
there's a
your- right.
big difference. Governor Brownback did sign the tax cut of 2012 on income taxes, but what he didn't do was cut spending. So in 2012, we had this significant cut in income taxes, but then in 2013, we set a new record in the state for spending at $6.1 billion, the state general fund. And then in 2015, 2 years after that, we set another record of $6.2 billion. So the spending line is going like this while the taxes are being cut. That's not what I plan to do. What I plan to do is cut spending and taxes at the same time. We won't put the cart before the horse. We won't have deficits. But you cannot cut taxes if you're not willing to cut spending as well.
But you know, spending was cut.
Well, no, as I mentioned, it actually went up. In the state general fund went up quite a bit.
Well, I know that public broadcasting in
yeah, one
Kansas
particular,
suffered.
yeah, some specific items may have
Right,
gotten
and
cut,
the
yeah.
arts and other such organizations.
Sure, but overall the budget expanded a great deal.
I
Yeah.
see. So the question then is, you said all of these wonderful things that people may want to hear. Why you as governor and not the others that are running?
Well, I think one thing that people who followed my political career would agree with, even if they don't agree with every single thing that I've done or every single policy, is they know that I'm determined and I don't back down. I don't say, well, this is going to be too difficult, we'll just try something else. And so when I say that I'm going to address the issue of appraisals being too high, these reappraisals of our property values being too high, people should have confidence that I'm going to deliver on that. You know, when I came in as Secretary of State, I said, I'm going to bring photo ID and proof of citizenship to Kansas elections. And I kept my promise, and I did it. And so I think voters, maybe Democrats, who might say, well, I don't know, Kobach's a Republican, I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for him. If they hear something that they like that I'm talking about, whether it be cutting sales taxes on food or maybe something having to do with stopping illegal immigration, they might have enough confidence that, you know, Kobach actually delivers, and he is very determined to get things done, and he doesn't back down, he doesn't sort of water down his ideas later on. They might say, hey, I agree with him on 2 out of 3 things, and I'm pretty confident he's going to deliver on those 2.
When you talk about voter ID,
Yeah.
and you talk about also immigration, that brings to mind your close relationship with President Trump. Tell us, how did that begin, and take it from there.
Actually, it began through his son, Donald Trump Jr. I was introduced to him by a friend in the hunting world. Donald Trump Jr. is an avid hunter. I'm an avid hunter. And a mutual friend of ours introduced us. And then after meeting Don Jr., I was introduced to his dad. We started talking about various immigration proposals and policies. And he decided to take my advice on some things and continue to consult with me on some of these issues. And then not too long after that, I endorsed him for president. And I was the only statewide elected official to do that. And from there, I was on the president's transition team. And since then, I've continued to advise the president.
So let's talk about immigration. Why is immigration such an important issue to you?
It's a big topic. But to condense it down for you, one important moment for me was 9/11. I was working in the U.S. Department of Justice, advising Attorney General John Ashcroft at the time. And one of the things that we saw with the 9/11 hijackers was very interesting. So there were 19 of them. They came in on legal visas, most of them temporary visas for pleasure, but also a few came in on student visas. Of the 19, 5 became illegal, most of them by overstaying their visas. So now they're no longer legally in the United States. Of those 5, 4 were stopped for traffic violations. So 4 law enforcement officers had the opportunity. They could have made an arrest on behalf of what was then the INS and transferred them to federal immigration authorities. Of those 4 missed opportunities, 3 were pilots. So if the arrest had been made, 3 of the planes never would have left the ground and thousands of people would be alive today. That's a missed opportunity of tragic proportions. And that informed a lot of what I've done in my career since then, is because there is a terrorist element. The terrorists were able to exploit these loopholes in our system. And then as I was working on the immigration issue for the Attorney General, we also saw that there were criminal issues as well, and that criminals were able to re-enter the country again and again and commit crimes. And then there's an economic impact as well. For so many cities around the country and states, illegal immigration has an impact on the budget, and if you have a significant percentage of the population illegally in the country, in your jurisdiction, you're probably going to see that the government has to spend more money and taxpayers have to pay higher taxes. So it became clear to me that this issue affects so many other issues, and therefore getting it right is really important.
So what stops an illegal alien from coming to Kansas after he or she enters the United States?
Right now, nothing stops him. In fact,
I mean, if your laws were, the changes you are proposing were to become effective.
Okay, well, for example, the surrounding states around Kansas do not allow illegal aliens to gain welfare and other public benefits. In Kansas, we do. One of the laws I would propose would be to deny welfare benefits to illegal aliens. Another thing we do in Kansas is we give illegal aliens in-state tuition. That's a huge incentive to stay in Kansas, and it may be an incentive to come to Kansas a few years earlier. And as a result, we're spending in any given year millions of dollars. $3 to $4 million is the best estimate last year, and that's money that could be spent helping to subsidize we subsidize the tuition of any person who gets illegal in-state tuition. That should be going to Kansas kids when they're seeing these tuition hikes year after year after year. Why are we spending the money subsidizing the education of people illegally in the country when you've got Kansas kids who are coming out with $28,000 in debt on average? So I just think it's common sense. So anyway, if I were governor, we would not be giving these financial incentives to come and stay in Kansas, which has an impact on Kansas taxpayers. It also takes away jobs from Kansans who are looking for those jobs.
So you've been a dad now for how long?
My eldest is 14, so 14 years.
And you want to become the dad of Kansas.
I don't know if I'd use it, so to speak. the leader of Kansas. Let's go with that.
The leader of Kansas, yeah. So my question is, what do you find that is challenging about parenthood?
Probably the most challenging thing for me is I'm the father of 5 daughters, and it's really important if you're a parent in a bigger family to give each child that special time so that they feel like they're not just one of a bunch of kids, but that they have personal time with daddy, and they feel like there's a relationship there and a friendship there and just a bond there. So I try to take one of my girls and go somewhere, do something with them. One of the things we do is we celebrate half birthdays. So half birthdays. So whenever a girl has a half birthday, that is a daddy day.
What is a half birthday?
So if you're like it's exactly 6 months from your birthday.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So on that day, I'll take that girl and she'll go to work with me. We'll go shopping and pick out a little gift, and then we'll go to either lunch or dinner together at a nice restaurant, and I will treat her like a princess, and she gets a special daddy day. So we do half birthdays. But to your point, the challenge is establishing a bond and quality time with each kid.
I'm curious, what do you do on the full birthday?
Well, the full birthday, everybody's involved. Mom's involved, sisters, friends, party, whatever you want to do on your birthday. But half birthday is a daddy day, so it's just me and that one daughter.
Oh, that's a unique idea.
Yeah, it works. They love it.
So let's do a lightning round with some quick answers.
All right.
It's the fun part of the show, I think.
Okay.
Tell me, what is your favorite food?
Favorite food? Venison or elk steak. I like to hunt, and I love the idea of actually chasing, hunting the game, and preparing it myself. So many Americans these days think that meat comes wrapped in plastic from the grocery store, and that's where it started.
So if you were to become governor, you would still hunt and do the same things?
Sure.
Okay. Your favorite drink?
Diet Coke. It's a weakness. Way too much of it.
Favorite band or singer?
Ooh, favorite band or singer? Since I've been Secretary of State, I used to, buy CDs, and now nobody buys CDs anymore. But yeah, listen to music all the time. I would say my favorite band back in the day was probably U2. And I also like Johnny Cash. So very diverse tastes there.
Your favorite Bible verse?
Luke 12:48. To whom much is given, from him much more is expected.
Your favorite leisure activity?
Hunting.
Favorite vacation spot?
Probably Vail, Colorado, skiing, or anywhere in Colorado skiing.
Your favorite president?
I have several favorites. I used to teach constitutional law, so James Madison, the father of the Constitution, is a personal favorite. I also would probably go with George Washington these are traditional, choices, but they were truly great presidents.
Your favorite federal law?
Favorite federal law? Now that's a surprise. Thinking of federal, it's hard for a conservative to think of laws, restrictions on people's liberty that are really great. That's a really good one. I would say maybe the Religious Freedom Restoration Act that allowed people to, in all walks of life, if there was something that the federal statutes were doing that inhibited their free expression of their chosen religion, that would give them a little bit of protection.
What about your favorite state law? That's the last one.
Oh, that's the one I drafted. That's the Kansas Secure and Fair Elections Act, photo ID and proof of citizenship.
So, what is your long-term aspiration, Mr. Kobach?
My long-term aspiration is to be the best governor that Kansas has seen in a very long time.
Yeah, but that only lasts for 8 years. After that?
After that, I don't know. I'm not one of those people who plots it out and says, okay, this is what, some politicians, you learn that some person was president and they planned it since age 4.
Do you have any goals of becoming president in the future?
I don't have it as a goal, but if somehow the path were laid out, I certainly wouldn't say absolutely not.
So President Trump, someone you have gotten close to, is critical of the national news media. Mm-hmm. He calls them fake news. What's your opinion of the local news media here in Kansas?
I don't think it's fake news, and I would distinguish between the print media, so the newspaper editorial pages. I think they are, I don't know if I'd use the term fake news, but they're extremely biased, and oftentimes they'll write editorials that have all kinds of errors in them. And they are very critical of me, and I think it's because they have a very tilted partisan view. But if you look at the reporters, I think the reporters in Kansas are very fair. I also think TV journalists in Kansas are very fair. In fact, I'd be hard-pressed to point to a TV reporter anywhere in the state that I think is unduly biased. So I think, and the same with radio. So I think when it comes to broadcast and the news page, I've got no complaints. When it comes to the editorial page, I've got some complaints.
Mr. Kobach, you seem to have had a successful career thus far, attended some wonderful schools, had a successful father. What has been the most defining moment of your life?
Well, I mentioned one, and that was 9/11, and that sometimes sounds trite because many politicians say, oh, 9/11 was so important. But it really was for me in terms of what I was doing in Washington at the time. Another one was, of course, meeting my wife, if she's watching. That's very important at that critical moment. I'm a Christian and I'm a man of faith, and so giving my life to Jesus and living my faith is important for me too. And when I decided to, that was critical. So those are probably the top three right there.
So my final question for this interview: what are your thoughts? And I have to ask this. What are your thoughts on state funding of public broadcasting in Kansas?
Well, I think that public broadcasting has done very well in Kansas. I mean, has done well for Kansans. And I've been very impressed with some of the shows and some of the programs and some of the efforts that public broadcasting has made. I won't make a commitment to a specific number just yet, but I do think it's important we keep public broadcasting in Kansas. However, if in a tight budget situation, the legislature and the governor have to, make priorities and decide what's essential and what can be cut. And so I don't want to make any specific commitments now, but I do think we need to keep public broadcasting in Kansas.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll say this. Over the course of my life in Kansas, I've seen governors come and governors go. And I don't think all that much has changed, even between Republican and Democrat administrations. You'll see changes here at the edge and there, but I think people will be interested and surprised at how much will change if I'm in there. I'm willing to rock the boat a little bit, and I'm okay with people saying, oh, I don't like that policy. Some people in politics, they strive to make everybody happy and nobody angry. And the only way you do that is by standing still and doing nothing. That's not who I am. I will be pushing forward in some of the directions we've talked about. And so people will see things changing.
So, other than running for governor, what is the lead story of your life thus far?
The lead story of my life thus far? Wow. I like to live life actively. I work hard. I play hard. I give everything to my family, my kids. I do things at the 100% level, and that's just kind of part of my personality. Gubernatorial
candidate for Kansas, Kris Kobach. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Likewise.
Yes. And thank you for watching this edition of One on One. Next time, we'll welcome Democratic candidate Laura Kelly to the program. The week after that, Independent Greg Orman. If you have a question or comment about the program, send us an email, oneonone@kpts.org. We love hearing from you and love having you watch the program. I'm Victor Hogstrom, and I'll see you next week with Laura Kelly.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, supporting KPTS and the communities it serves in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Support also comes from viewers like you. Thank you. Call KPTS to receive a DVD copy of this program for a $40 donation. You can also send a check or money order along with the program name, date, and time to the address on your screen. And you will receive a 1-year KPTS membership.